E9119, Kautaq, my grandfather. Kautaq was born August 1926 in the Belcher Islands, raised in a community named after his grandfather, Kautaq. In January 1946, at only 19 years old, he was sadly taken to the Beck Memorial Sanatorium in London, Ontario, for treatment of tuberculosis. Here he would stay for 7 long, horrible years. My grandfather never spoke about his time at the sanatorium, and everything I am sharing with you is purely from me wanting to know more. Join me as I visit what is now called the Child and Parent Resource Institute in London, Ontario, and share with you what I've learned and how it has affected my family. I wanted to see what he's seen. I needed to know the environment he lived in those 7 years. I was only able to retrieve 6 pages of his file while at the sanatorium. However, these pages gave me so much more insight and understanding of what my grandfather lived through. It was heartbreaking to find out that when my grandfather was taken from his community, he was traditionally married, but because no one heard from him for so long, they assumed he had passed and his wife remarried. I can't imagine how that must have felt for him and his family. Another thing I discovered was his discharge date of June 1st, 1950. However, letters show that he wasn't granted permission to leave until February 1953. This is when the Moose Factory Hospital accepted him for employment. Records also show that Kautaq was a dishwasher for the sanatorium for these 3 years, paying him only $71.50 a month. I like to keep things for part of my healing journey. I found this gorgeous shell and I kept it as a part of my reminder of my visit. I kept trying to make what I seen positive, the water, the trees, the basketball net. But in reality, my grandfather spent most of his time in a hospital bed. And my heart couldn't help but wonder if there are babies buried here and how many. Kautaq was labeled as disabled after having a lung removed and the other one scraped. They indicated in his records that due to operations, he was unfit for life in the north and required sheltered employment. The summer of 1952, Kautaq was finally able to save enough money from washing dishes to go home for a visit to see his mother and friends. Documents also show that he went on a summer vacation with the RCMP patrol that summer. I walked down the path and my mind kept thinking of how much he must have missed his family, how much he must have missed his home. In February 1953, Kautaq eventually was granted permission to be moved to the Moose Factory Hospital, where he would accept a position as an orderly, earning $138 per month, almost double than what the sanatorium was paying him. Kautaq would eventually move his way up to an X-ray technician, where he would work for over 30 years. I looked for the oldest, biggest tree in hopes that my grandfather, not ever seeing a tree before coming here, would absolutely gravitate to it. My favorite memory of my grandfather is when I used to visit him in Moose Factory and he would sneak me sugar cubes under the kitchen table. The long-term effects the sanatorium has had on my family is sadly irreversible. The loss of language, the loss of environment, the loss of culture and family, and the intergenerational trauma is so deep that we still strive to survive. I am resilient because of him. This is how I heal. Next, I hope to go home to Kautaq for the first time and pay my respects to my grandfather's grave. We love you, Kautaq.